Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We will continue with the topic of mechanical properties of materials. In last session, we discussed the materials which follows the Hooke's law. The material which follows the Hooke's law are generally called as the linear elastic materials. Now we will discuss elastic materials and plastic materials. Elastic materials are ones which follows the elasticity, and elasticity we will discuss in detail later. Basically, the elastic materials are one which regain its original shape and size after removal of the applied load. Let's consider the example. We have a specimen which is loaded in tensile. Now, upon application of this load, the material is deformed. In this particular case, there is a elongation, and this deformation we say that this is del L. Once this load is removed, P is 0, so the del L is also 0. So it means the materials the materials which regain its initial shape and size after removal of the applied load are called elastic materials. Further, the deformation which is vanished or finished after removal of the applied load is called the elastic deformation. Now if we take the example of this specimen, and if we go for the section method, let's say this is section of the specimen. Upon application of applied load, there are internal resistive forces, and once these applied load is removed, these resistive forces bring back the material to its original shape. So these type of materials are known as the elastic materials. Now we will discuss the plastic material. In plastic materials which cannot regain its original shape and size after removal of the applied forces. Now again taking the example of the tensile specimen. After application of the force, there is a deformation in the form of elongation, that is del L, and once the load is removed, still this del L is not equal to 0. It means there is a still the material that is deformed and their internal resistive forces are not so enough to bring back the material to its original shape, or the resistive forces not corresponding with the applied load. So we can write this: the material which does not regain its initial shape and size after removal of the load are called plastic materials. Because the internal resistive forces are not enough to bring back the material to its original position and shape. Now we will discuss stress strain curves for fundamental materials. Let's say the linear elastic material. In linear elastic material, if we take the example of this stress strain diagram, in this we have a inclined straight line, and this inclined straight line indicating that the material is linear elastic, and the material will come back to its original shape and size after removal of the load. Now the rigid material. For the case of rigid materials, are those materials which does not go for any deformation irrespective of the magnitude and direction of the applied load. So if we consider the Hooke's law, that is sigma is equal to E epsilon, and we can write this E, the Young modulus, as sigma over epsilon. Now considering the stress strain diagram, if we apply the load and continuously increase the load, means we are increasing the value of stress, but there is no deformation, means the epsilon is 0. Now once this epsilon is equal to 0, there is no deformation, means this Young's modulus is going to be sigma over 0, or Young's modulus is equal to infinity. So which means for the case of rigid materials, the value of the Young's modulus is infinite. Now we will discuss the plastic materials. Again, the plastic materials are the ideal plastic materials as we have discussed earlier, and if the material that does not regain its original position or original shape and size, we call those materials as the plastic materials. Now in this case, if we take the example of this stress strain diagram, and if the material behavior is as such that you are continuously increasing the load but still there is no increase in the stress. So what does it indicate? This is showing the plastic behavior, but for this case this is ideal plastic material. And if we just take the example of the old specimen, let's say we have a specimen and this is subjected to the tensile loading, and using the section method let's say the applied load that is continuously, you may say you are increasing, and there is internal resistive forces, and the value of this internal forces that remains 0. So means the material is not posing any resistance, or the resistive force is not commensurating with the applied load. And for this specific case, the material which does not offer any resistance the material which does not offer any resistance against the applied load are termed as the ideal plastic materials. And this we take the example of the fluids or the polymers. Now the elastoplastic material. Now the elastoplastic materials are those materials, let's say this is stress strain diagram. Now elastoplastic material is those materials which offer a resistance up to some point, and after that there is a plastic behavior. So let's say initially there is a elastic behavior, so we call this the elastic material or the elastic response or behavior of the material. And after that point the material behavior is, our response is like plastic material, that it is going for deformation permanently. So this plastic response could be any, and this point we term this the elastic limit. Up to that, the material response or the behavior is elastic. So we can define the elastic limit as it is a point up to which the material shows the elastic behavior. And for example, after this elastic limit, the material behaves in a manner of ideal elastic, ideal plastic material. So for this case, we can say the elasto ideal plastic material. Now, rigid plastic are perfectly plastic materials. Now, for this case, we know the rigid materials upon application of the external force or the applied load. Let's say this is the stress strain diagram, and for the case of rigid materials, the material does not go any deformation up to some point, and after that suddenly the materials go for the ideal plastic deformation or behavior of ideal plastic material, and the up to point the material is behaving like a rigid material. In certain books it is written as the yield stress. So we can define the the material which poses or which offer resistance or stresses in such a manner that there is no deformation before the ideal plastic materials behavior. Now this type of materials are known as the perfectly plastic materials. Now with this we end our discussion here. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We will continue with the topic of mechanical properties of materials. Now we will actually see what does this mean by mechanical properties. And the properties which can be determined or observed by application of of the mechanical force or energy. As we have already discussed that the mechanical force is a force which requires direct physical contact. Now, one of the important properties of the material is the strength. Now, in general perception or as a layman, we can define this strength as the carrying capacity, load carrying capacity of any of the material. But from engineering point of view, we define strength as the maximum value of stress which a material can sustain without failure. Now, how to express the failure or define the failure? We take failure in two ways. Failure due to plastic deformation in the material and due to permanent rupture or the fracture. And these terms are associated with the type of materials, again the ductile materials which go for the deformation prior to the fracture, and the brittle materials they straightway go for the rupture, breaking of the material or fracture. So if we consider the ductile material, these materials go for large degree of deformation prior to the rupture or fracture. Now, this is estimated or calculated on the basis of the percentage elongation, the which material is ductile and brittle. Now, the percentage elongation is measured by using this expression, the final length of the material minus the initial length upon the initial length multiplied by 100. Now, if the percentage elongation is more than 15% in any of the material, we say the material is complete ductile material. And if the percentage elongation is less than, greater than 5% and less than 15%, we say the material is intermediate ductile material. And if the percentage elongation is less than 5%, we say the material is brittle material. Now, as we have already discussed that the strength is that value of the stress which can a material sustain. So stress is very important to calculate the strength of a material. So if we see the expression of stress, that is sigma is equal to P upon A. Now this P is the resisting force and this A is the area. Now resisting force, we are, instead of resisting force we are writing P because this resisting force is equal to the applied load. So in this expression we see that there is the stress is directly proportional to the load and inversely proportional to the cross sectional area, and it is not having any relation with the material. So we can say the stress does not depends on the material. Now how to go? As we know, the strength of the material is the stress value which a material can sustain. Now this we will explain or discuss with taking two of the examples. Let's say we have two materials and these are subjected to tensile loading. Now one material we say is of steel and other is thread wire, and the cross section of both the materials is of same A. Now we start increasing the load. Now what is happening? This is P upon A. Now for both the cases the area is same and the applied load is same. So we can say if this we the steel specimen we express with this A and B. So we say that this A, sigma A is equal to sigma B. The stress is going to build in these materials that is same. But by virtue of our experience we know that this thread wire is going to break earlier than the steel. So we can say that steel has higher, more strength than the thread wire. Now actually this strength helps to strength helps for selection of material for any of the application or suitability of the material for any of the applications. Now considering a stress strain diagram for the case of ductile material, and let's say this is the stress strain diagram for ductile material, and in that we know that material after reaching, I draw it again. Now after material reaching a point, there is a deformation that starts. Now this point is known as the yield point or yield stress, or you may call this yield stress. Now for ductile material, the failure criteria that is based on the yield stress. For ductile materials, normally the yield stress is taken as the failure criteria, because the material is not going to recover and it is not usable for any of the component. So the other types of the strengths, that is the tensile strength, which is the maximum value of the tensile stress which a material can carry. Then we have the compressive strength, the maximum value of the compressive stresses which a material can carry, and likewise the shear strength, the maximum value of the shear stress which a material can carry. Now strength is the maximum value of the stress that a material can carry, and if we represent this strength with this S symbol. Now one thing is very important to incorporate, that is a factor of safety. Safety, so that the material does not fail in the field. Now if, let's say, if we take this sigma is greater than or equal to or greater than the strength, or this tau is greater than the strength value, then certainly in this case the material will fail. So we incorporate the factor of safety, which is the strength upon designed stress, or we may express as the failure stress upon the permissible or allowable stress. Let's say if we talk of one of the material and we say that the material strength is 300 megapascal. So as a designer we will say that the permissible the design limit should be up to 100 megapascal. The material should not be loaded beyond this 100 megapascal. So we will get this factor of safety as 3, and this is a dimensionless value. Now coming back to how to calculate this factor of safety, coming back to the basic expression, first that is sigma is equal to P upon A. Load is there, we have to apply that very load. Now considering this sigma, or even you can take this tau, is directly inversely proportional to the cross sectional area. Now what is happening here, to calculate the factor of safety for this specific case, we say that sigma design is going to be the strength of the material is 300 megapascal, and we use the factor of safety 3. So we will get the design or the allowable stress value, that is 100 megapascal. Now considering this expression, this sigma is inversely proportional to the cross sectional area. Now as this stress goes down, this cross sectional area is increasing. So we can say with the increase of the factor of safety, the dimension of the components that also increases. So we can write this factor of safety correlation mentions of the components now with the increase of this factor of safety, the dimensions are also increasing. Now we will end this discussion here. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We will continue with the topic of mechanical properties of materials. In this session we will discuss ductility and brittleness. We have already discussed the difference between the ductile materials and brittle materials. And we have seen that ductile materials go for plastic deformation before the fracture. But for the case of brittle materials, the plastic deformation is so minute that even that cannot be noticed and the material fails. Now the ductility we can define as ductility is the property of the material by virtue of which A material gives large degree of plastic deformation before fracture. Now, ductility can also be defined as the property of the material by virtue of which the material can be drawn into thin sheets. As we know, the ductility is calculated by using the tensile loading. So, if we take a specimen and subject it to tensile force, now due to that, the large cross section area of the material, that is significantly reduced. Let's say the initial cross sectional area of that material is D1, and now after application of the tensile loading, this area is reduced to D2. Now this is the property of ductility. The material is drawn into, by using this, the material is drawn into thin wires. Now drawn is simply means drying process. Now in drying process we have a die. This is a pure manufacturing process and the details would be covered in manufacturing process, and this is the die opening, and the material contained in the die once subjected to tensile loading. Now this is converted into wires. So we can deduce from this another definition of the ductile material. So we can define ductility is the property of material by virtue of which material goes into large reduction in cross sectional area, and also it will give large plastic deformation. So we can express ductility like this as also. Now further we can say that the low plastic deformation before fracture indicates the low ductility and high plastic deformation before fracture indicates high ductility of the material. Now we will discuss the brittleness. Brittleness is property of the material which is just opposite to that of the ductility. Now we can define the brittleness is the property of material by virtue of which material goes into low plastic deformation before fracture. Now it is a big problem from the user point of view that ductility for the case there is a deformation, significant deformation, and users can assess that they have to replace the component of that very material to avoid the catastrophic failure or the fracture. But for the case of brittle materials, the plastic deformation is so minute that that cannot be even traced out. So that is why the brittle materials are not preferred for the structural applications, like trusses or the truss members are not made out of brittle materials. On the other side, the material is brittle or ductile. This is again measured or calculated using the tensile test. So this is again tensile testing is performed to assess that whether the material is ductile or brittle. Now for the case of or for brittleness performing test, the result is where low reduction in cross-sectional area as well as very difficult to draw into thin wires. Now, another property of the material, that is malleability. Now, this is defined as malleability is property of the material by virtue of which material goes into large reduction of cross-sectional under action of the compressive force. Now here we see that malleability is similar to that of the ductility. As the ductility provides the large reduction in cross-section area, similar with the case of malleability, there is a large reduction of area. Now, what is the difference between the malleability and the ductility? So we can say the ductility, or we can say the difference. What is the difference between the two properties? Generally, the ductility happens under action of the tensile force or loading, whereas malleability happens under action of the compressive force. Like we see the aluminum files there, they are used for the defense. Now for the case of malleability also, we observe that there is a large reduction in cross-sectional area, in cross-sectional area, and similarly high degree of plastic deformation, and this is also for the ductility. And one of the difference is the application of the forces. In ductility we go for the tensile force, tensile loading, and malleability we go for the compressive force. And And the most significant differences or the important difference between ductile and malleable material is that if a material is ductile, it is also good malleable material. But if a material is malleable, it may or may not be ductile material. Now with this we end our discussion here. Allah Hafiz.